The phone slipped from my hand and shattered on the tile like my heart already had. Sarah's voice still echoed through the speaker on the floor. "Grandma, we're keeping the wedding small. Family only. You understand?" I understood. I understood everything in that single sentence. I stood in the kitchen where I'd stood for 43 years, the same checkered linoleum now cracked like the veins in my hands. The kettle whistled, lonely and shrill, the way it did every morning since Robert died. I let it scream. Steam curled up past the yellowed curtains I'd sewn the year Emily was born. Emily. My Emily, who used to run barefoot through these rooms, begging for one more story about the princess who saved herself. I turned off the burner. Silence rushed in, heavier than the steam. I touched my forehead where Sarah's small hand had rested this morning. "Grandma, I don't feel well. Can I stay home today?" Her skin had been cool, her eyes too bright. I'd pressed my lips to that spot the way my own mother taught me. "Of course, darling. I'll make chicken soup." I'd kept her home, tucked her under the quilt I'd pieced from Robert's old shirts. She'd fallen asleep clutching the rag doll I'd made from scraps. That was yesterday. Today she was 28 and telling me I wasn't family. The soup pot still sat on the stove, half full, crusted at the edges. I scraped it into the trash, the metal spoon clanging against porcelain. The sound ricocheted through the empty house. Empty. That word had crept in slowly, like frost on the windows. First it was just the guest room after Emily left for college. Then the nursery when Sarah stopped bringing the babies overnight. Now the whole house echoed with it. I walked to the laundry room, my slippers scuffing the floorboards that used to creak under children's feet. The washer thumped with Sarah's old sweatshirt, the one she'd left last Christmas, stained with paint from the mural she never finished. I lifted it out, still damp. The scent of her coconut shampoo lingered in the fibers. I pressed it to my face, breathed her in, then folded it with the same care I'd used when she was 8 and cried because the other girls laughed at her crooked braids. I placed it on the pile for the church donation box. Outside, snow began to fall, soft as the lies they told me. I watched through the window above the sink, the one that looked out on the maple Robert and I planted the day we brought Emily home from the hospital. Its branches were bare now, skeletal against the gray sky. I remembered pushing Emily on the tire swing that hung from the lowest limb. "Higher, Grandma, higher!" Her laughter had been the brightest sound in the world. I'd pushed until my arms ached, until Robert called us in for cocoa. That tree had grown tall on our love. Now it stood witness to my pruning. I moved to the living room, to the cedar chest where I kept the memories they no longer wanted. Inside lay the christening gown I'd smocked for Emily, yellowed with age. The silver rattle Robert's mother gave us. The hospital bracelet from Sarah's birth, tiny, perfect, still smelling faintly of powder. I lifted the stack of savings bonds, each one made out to Emily Rose Carter or Sarah Jane Carter. $10,000, 20, 30. I'd cashed in Robert's life insurance, sold the beach cottage, skipped my own medications to keep adding to their future. Their names were crossed out now in my careful handwriting, replaced with the women's shelter. The pen had trembled, but the line was straight. Upstairs, in the closet of the bedroom that used to be theirs, I found the wedding album. Sarah's first marriage, the one that ended when her husband decided a newer model was better. I'd paid for the dress, the flowers, the honeymoon suite they never used. On the last page, a photo of me holding 3-month-old Lily, Sarah's daughter, while Sarah danced with her new groom. My smile in that picture looked foreign now, stretched too wide, eyes already pleading. I closed the album. The spine cracked like a small bone. The doorbell rang at dusk. I knew who it would be before I opened it. Sarah stood on the porch, cheeks flushed from the cold, holding a casserole dish like a peace offering. Behind her, Mark, husband number 2, shuffled his feet, eyes on his phone. "Mom, what is this about changing the locks?" Sarah's voice carried that edge it got when she was cornered. "Mrs. Henderson said she saw a locksmith." I looked at the casserole. Tuna noodle. The same dish I'd brought when her dog died, when Mark lost his job, when Lily had chicken pox. "Come in," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's, steady, flat, ancient. They stepped inside, bringing the smell of snow and entitlement. Sarah set the dish on the counter. "We need to talk about the house." "The house," I repeated. The word tasted like rust. Mark cleared his throat. "Look, Eleanor, we appreciate everything you've done, but Sarah's business is expanding. We could really use the equity to—" "Stop!" I held up my hand. The same hand that had changed their diapers, signed their permission slips, paid their orthodontist. I'm selling the house. Sarah's mouth opened, closed. You can't. This is our home. Your home was the apartment I paid the deposit on. The condo I co-signed. The starter house I gave you the down payment for. I walked to the mantel, lifted the framed photo of Robert holding newborn Emily. This was my home. With him, Mark tried his reasonable voice. Eleanor, you're not thinking clearly. At your age. At my age, I said, I've earned the right to think clearly for the first time in decades. I set the photo face down. The glass cracked under my palm. I've transferred the accounts. Removed you from the will. The beach cottage sold last week. The proceeds went to the scholarship fund in Robert's name, the one you said was sentimental nonsense. Sarah's face crumpled, the way it did when she was 6 and I told her she couldn't have a pony. Mom, please. We're family. Family, I said, tasting the word. Family doesn't call only when they need money for IVF. Family doesn't forget birthdays but remembers the property taxes are due. Family doesn't tell a 72-year-old woman she's not invited to her granddaughter's wedding because optics. I walked to the door, opened it. Snow swirled in, dusting the threshold. Take the casserole. I'm allergic to tuna now. Doctor's orders. Sarah reached for me, but I stepped back. The distance between us felt like miles. You'll regret this, she whispered. No, I said. I regretted the 30 years I taught you that love meant letting people take pieces of you until nothing remained. They left. The door closed with a soft click, not a slam, just final. I stood in the quiet, listening to their car crunch away over the snow. The house exhaled around me, settling into itself the way old bones do after a long carry. I made tea in the chipped mug Emily painted at summer camp, the one with the lopsided sun. The first sip burned my tongue, but I welcomed the pain. It meant I could still feel. I carried the mug to the sunroom where the Christmas cactus bloomed defiantly, fuchsia against the white world outside. I'd neglected it for years, yet here it was, thriving on neglect. Tomorrow the realtor would come. The moving truck. The shelter would send someone for the furniture. The oak table where we'd carved birthdays into the underside. The rocker where I'd nursed babies and dreams. I'd keep the cedar chest, the quilt, the photo album with its broken spine. The rest could go to women starting over, the way I was. I opened the laptop Robert bought me the year he got sick. My fingers, arthritic, steady, typed the confirmation for the senior living community in Asheville. Mountain views, art classes, a garden plot with my name on it. The deposit came from the sale of Sarah's wedding china, the set she'd registered for but never used. Karma, I thought, has excellent taste. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the tire swing, the cracked walkway, the memories. Inside, I began packing. Not much. A lifetime fits into surprisingly few boxes when you stop carrying everyone else's baggage. The last thing I took down was the key rack by the door. 5 hooks. Robert's truck key, gone with the truck. Emily's old bike key, rusty now. Sarah's house key, returned months ago, with a post-it that said, "Don't need this anymore." The spare I'd kept for emergencies. And mine. I unhooked them all, let them fall into my palm like spent shells. I slipped my key into my pocket. It felt heavier than the others, solid with possibility. Tomorrow I'd mail the rest to Sarah with no note. She'd understand. Or she wouldn't. Either way, the locks were changing. I turned off the lights room by room. The house grew darker but not empty. It hummed with the energy of release. In the hallway, I paused at the growth chart penciled on the doorframe. Emily at 4, 38 inches. Sarah at 6, 44. Lily at 2, barely a smudge. I ran my hand over the marks, then took the eraser from the junk drawer and wiped them clean. The wall looked naked, honest. At the threshold, I paused. The snow had stopped. Moonlight glazed the yard, turning the maple into a sculpture of silver branches. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me. The lock clicked. I didn't look back. The moving truck would come at dawn. Tonight I walked to the corner where the shelter van waited. Mrs. Henderson had arranged it, bless her nosy heart. The driver took my small suitcase, offered his arm. I took it. My legs were steady. As we pulled away, I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror. It looked smaller than I remembered, a dollhouse version of the life I'd lived. The Christmas cactus glowed in the window like a tiny heartbeat. I smiled. Someone else would water it now. Someone else would learn its stubborn magic. The road stretched ahead, black and glistening. I rolled down the window. Cold air rushed in, sharp with pine and promise. For the first time in years, I breathed deeply enough to feel my ribs expand. The weight was gone. Not lifted, cut away, clean and surgical. Behind me, the house slept under its blanket of snow. Ahead, the mountains waited, ancient and unimpressed by human drama. I was going to them with empty hands and a full heart. The casserole dish sat on the seat beside me, still warm. I'd eat it for breakfast. Waste not, want not, some lessons stick. I touched the key in my pocket. It was warm from my body. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. An owl called. The ordinary sounds of a world that kept turning long after hearts broke and healed and broke again. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the first pink of sunrise touched the horizon. A new day, my day. The road curved gently, carrying me forward. I didn't look back again. There was nothing there I needed anymore. And for the first time in 72 years, Eleanor Rose Carter, mother, grandmother, keeper of everyone else's dreams, was finally gloriously going home to herself.